Romance Dawn, so the thing is that I bloat pretty easily, and that's kind of problematic because I get kind of self-conscious when I bloat in any romance-adjacent situation, so because of that, I was just abstaining from eating the entire time. Fortunately, it is a rather short arc, and because of that, I didn't really have to wait that long, so I did get a bit hungry, but not very. I would have to give Romance Dawn a D. Orangetown, so the thing is, I know that this should place highly for the average person, but for me, when I looked at Orangetown, I didn't see the food, I saw the color, and you know what? Your boy doesn't eat color, so this did nothing for me. I was not hungry at all the entire time. Easy F tier. Syrup Village, I know that this is a Claire favorite to win, because if this was some sort of like basketball-esque bracket, everybody would put it at the top, because it's like, oh, a village full of syrup, and people like pancakes and whatnot, but dude, let me tell you, an entire village of syrup is far too much syrup to the point that it's gross. I'm not hungry when I'm grossed out by food. This is another F tier. Baratie, which for the longest time I really thought was pronounced Baratie because, you know, English is weird, so I'm like, well, it may as well do this too. But the entire time I watched it, I was kind of freaked out, to be real with you, because ties freak me out. They're like super fancy. I'm not a fancy person. I wear anime shirts all the time. I don't know how to tie a tie. There's so much social anxiety that comes with that, and like, guess what? It's kind of like the opposite of food if you think about it, right? Like, you put food into your mouth, it goes down your throat, into your digestive system, and guess what? Ties, they are literally enclosing around the thing food needs to go through, your throat. I don't know, there's something sus about it, and honestly, these are the things I was thinking about during this arc. No time to think about hunger. F tier. Arlong Park. I know the whole thing with Arlong Park and the Fishman is all about equality, right? And the cycle of violence and hatred, and this whole idea of like the Fishman being like oppressed, and this kind of reaction to that oppression. Their whole thing, right, is that they're like, hey, we're people just like you, and honestly, that's a great message, especially in the real world and whatnot, but the thing is, like, I really like tuna. I really like fish, and I was hungry through this arc. The thing is, right, whenever I go shopping, there are literally 3 things I can always be counted on doing. Number 1 is going to the shopping store because, like, bruh, how else am I gonna get the food that I'm shopping for? Number 2 is walking to the aisle that I always go to because how else will I get to that aisle? Number 3 is buying a whole heck lot of tuna. So much tuna, in fact, that I actually have an entire shelf in my apartment that is dedicated to tuna. It's called the tuna shelf because it is what it is. And whenever anybody enters my apartment, they always stare at it in awe. And to be real with you, to this day, I don't know if it's in awe in a good way. Like, people are just amazed by the sheer amount of tuna I have, or if they're afraid. But regardless, the important thing here is I really like fish, I really like tuna, and so, you know, the entire arc made me want to eat it. So I was eating some tuna here, some tuna there, but the thing is, guess what? It's not that filling. So this arc, right, what it did was it put me in this position where I was always hungry, but the food I was eating wasn't particularly filling, so I was basically eating and hungry non-stop. This is a peak hunger experience in One Piece. Let me tell you, this is a quadruple S-tier arc in terms of hunger. I know that's not even on the tier list, but boom, we're adding that now as a new tier, because I was just so darn hungry during this. Loguetown. So the thing is, this arc is really characterized by Smoker for a lot of people. You know, he's introduced and he's made to be this, like, really commanding presence, and to be real, he does kind of fall off and doesn't really live up to the hype that was initially built up, but the thing is, homie is a Logia who is full of smoke, and I don't want secondhand smoke. I'm not really thinking about eating in this situation. I'm just thinking of, hey, how long do I have to hold my breath? F tier. Reverse Mountain. So the thing is that, like, completely unrelated to this arc, I happened to make a really big sandwich, like, right before it started, and I got, like, super full because of that, so this is an easy F tier. Whiskey Peak. So the thing is that I was still full from my sandwich that I ate right before the Reverse Mountain arc, because it wasn't particularly long, and that fullness, it stayed with me through to the end of Whiskey Peak. This is another F tier. Sorry to tell you guys, but it really is. Little Garden. So this is actually really interesting, right? Because this had me sold. Usopp's whole thing with wanting to become a brave warrior of the sea, and, you know, aspiring to be like the two giants, Dory and Bragi, that are like fighting thing. It was really powerful, right? But it also got me thinking, I'm like, I want to be big and strong too. And whenever I kind of like get that kick, right, where I'm like, oh, I want to be big and strong too, my mind goes like, oh, you gotta eat a lot of food and eat a lot of like protein to get big and strong and stuff. So I did. And that snacking carried through all the way to the end. S tier. Drum Island, reindeer meat. S tier. Alabasta, it's an arc that makes you thirsty, and thirst is not hunger. I was focused on wanting water and quenching my thirst the entire time. I mean, think about it. There is the whole thing with the rainwater and everything being dry, Crocodile's master plan, and have we even talked about Nefertari? Yeah, I was so thirsty for her. I had such a big crush. This just made me want to focus on that thirst the entire time, from all angles, from the water angle, from the Vivi angle, no time for food at all. F tier. Jaya, I know that you and I will be on the same page with this arc. Let me tell you why. It is an easy S tier because I am absolutely hungry for revenge against Bellamy the hyena the entirety of this arc. And on top of that, which is already such a potent stimulus for hunger, we throw cherry pie into the mix? Like, bruh, S tier. This is an S tier. Skypiea, the clouds kind of look like marshmallows to me, and I like marshmallows, but the thing is I'm like really bad at liking marshmallows because I don't really have any marshmallows in my apartment on the average week. So I got pretty hungry and I didn't really have a means to like quench my hunger, right? Because I really just wanted marshmallows. A tier. Long Ring Longland, it honestly made me want onion rings because, okay, firstly the name, right? Ring. But by the time you get to that whole racetrack, right? The racetrack's in a circle. What is a circle the shape of? Onion ring. A tier. So honestly, I don't really know if Water 7 and the Sea Train are like the same arc or separate arcs. I've always been kind of confused on that point. Like, if somebody actually knows, could you let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are on this? I don't know if it's like a subjective thing where, like, depending on who's looking at it, kind of like abstract art, they could like divvy up the arcs however they want, or if there's like an official like ruling from the One Piece elite about what the official like dividing line is. But yeah, when it comes to Water 7, I was so focused on the suspense and the mystery the entire time. I didn't really have that much of an interest in focusing on hunger, but the arc was super long. It was long enough for hunger to start creeping up despite my mind not really focusing on it, so it did get an honorary D tier. I don't know if Enie's Lobby and Return to Water 7 are like the same or different or what's going on there, but I'm gonna ebb on the side of the buddy system. The last arcs were combined. I'm gonna combine these two just so the original arcs don't really feel like super left out. They have like a buddy that's also kind of in that weird maybe combined, maybe not combined situation. But anywho, Enie's Lobby made me hunger for freedom for Robin, and because of like pop culture and memes and stuff, I associate freedom with hamburgers, and honestly, I could go for a hamburger on most days. A tier. Thriller Bark, Gecko Moria, literally, dude, he looks like a hot dog. Let's go. S tier. Sabaody Archipelago. So the thing is that I actually play like D&D with my friends on most weekend, and the session that happened right around the time I was starting Sabaody Archipelago, one of my friends, she brought pizza, but it was like double chicken pizza with all this stuff, and it was like so bomb. So when the D&D session ended, I was like, you know what? I want more of this. So I drove to the pizza place, I replicated the order, and I ate it while watching Sabaody Archipelago, but honestly, having double pizza, like 2 pizzas in a day, it was quite a lot. I did get super full. I just had like a brief fleeting moment of hunger at the beginning, and then it was instantly evaporated. D tier. Amazon Lily. Yeah, I had food poisoning from like the pizza I ate during Sabaody Archipelago the night before. F tier. Impel Down. The building kind of reminds me almost like a cake with its layered structure, and that's pretty sick, but prison is also kind of scary, so that did dampen my hunger a little bit. So it's not really an S tier or an A tier, it's actually a B tier for me, funnily enough. Marineford. It has such a high cool factor for me that like, no matter what list it is on, what I am ranking, a huge part of me wants to just always give it an S just because it's Marineford. And you know what? That's holding true today. S tier. The post-war arc. I had a peanut butter sandwich about halfway through it, so I was like a little bit hungry, moderately hungry until the middle, but then I was like pretty satisfied after. C tier. Return to Sabaody. This one's kind of interesting because the whole thing with the fake straw hats, right? Like, it's somewhat of a play on that trope of having your like glory years behind you, and it's like this alternate reality almost of like what could have been, even though I know they are like discrete characters, but honestly, it kind kind of existentially freaked me out, and it made me want to work out more than anything, so I just kind of like did that. There was no room for hunger. F-tier. Fishman Island. Bruh. You know how I am about tuna? I love tuna. I love fish. This is an entire mega arc of fish. I was so hungry all the time. I kept eating, not getting fully satisfied, and honestly, Arlong Park, quadruple S tier, but let's be real, this is even greater than that. It needs to go in its own tier because the length of this, the length of exposure to fish, I was hungry. I was hungry for so long. This is a quintuple S tier. That's a lot of S's. Let's go. Punk Hazard. So the thing is that I actually spaced out during a lot of Punk Hazard my first time through. It didn't really grab my attention, so I got kind of distracted and played a lot of Magic the Gathering Arena while it was going on. And because I was so busy playing Magic, I didn't even have enough time for One Piece, let alone food, so F tier. Dressrosa, I was hungry for the freedom of the toys, and honestly, I was super hungry for the end of the Rebecca flashback. S tier. Zoe, you know why. S tier. Whole Cake Island. We all knew this is coming. This is easily getting an S tier because let me tell you, there is so much food, and not only is there just like such a high quantity of food, it's highly diverse too. I know it's mostly sweets and stuff, but if you're having a craving for one thing and you see a trigger for it, you're gonna get hungry, and you know what? You could satisfy that craving, and then you move on to the next episode, and you see some other sort of like sweet delight that triggers another craving. I was hungry the entire time, so hungry. S tier. S tier. Hardcore S tier. The Reverie. So the thing is, about a year ago, went to this like super fancy going away party that my friend's work threw for him, and it was like super fancy because he does like super fancy administrative stuff for work with like universities and whatnot. So they had like these hamburgers that were like fancy burgers. Instead of like buns, they had this like mix of like a cracker and bread. It was just like so unbelievably good, and all their other catering was just like so good. Like these are the type of people that actually know how to like wear ties, you know, the people that go to these events. Whenever I see like a meeting of fancy high-up people, it kind of reminds me of that event, and it makes me super hungry. S tier. Wano, the whole thing, right, is that it's full of people that are starving and hungry and want food, and you know what? I'll fall for that marketing. I want food. It made me pretty hungry throughout it, but you know, you kind of feel a little bit bad because of the whole everybody starving thing, because, you know, there is that whole like narrative through line with like some people having access to food and eating too much and whatnot, so it brought what would have been an S tier down to an A tier for me. Egghead Island. This one is pretty darn solid, let me tell you. Dude, it's about an egg and your head. Bruh, if you're trying to eat an egg, where does it go? In your mouth. And where's your mouth? On your head. It's like the perfect combination, egg and head. This is brilliant, beautiful, it's everything I'd want. S tier. Okay, so that's it for the video, but seriously everybody, let me know in the comments down below which arcs you felt the most and least hungry during. I don't know, like, am I weird for, like, feeling super hungry during some arcs and not hungry during others? I feel like there might be some, like, community consensus out there that I'm just missing. And with that, Duckpiece out.